Good afternoon. We're going to start exactly on time today. It's good hearing from y'all and seeing the followers. We're going to wait for more followers to start, but we have a heavy agenda this afternoon, so we're not waiting on anyone. I do want to share with you some announcements before we begin our program tonight. I'm really excited about it, and we have a lot of things that are happening this coming, of course, in September, October, and November. So I want you guys to really stay with us. I want to thank our faithful followers for always being with us. Again, I'm Dr. Willie Miles. I'm the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children Foundation, located right here in Atlanta, Georgia. But it seems like we're everywhere doing everything. We're just trying to do some good. We're trying to do some good. I do want to thank our followers who are donating to us. You know, the donations are coming in great, and we really appreciate that. For you realize that without you, there's no us. Without you, there's no us. So keep those dollars coming in. We ain't begging, we just asking. We do believe that all things work together for good, and this is through his will. So the foundation is here to help children. And what greater work can you do with that, helping children? A few announcements. I know that some of y'all have been seeing our announcements about our t-shirts, and y'all been liking the announcement, but you ain't been buying them. So I need you all to start buying those t-shirts. Is a campaign. It goes on until September 22nd. However, you will be able to purchase them after the 22nd, and for larger sizes, you know, like myself, you know, for 2X's on up, email me at our website, and folk will be more than happy to get you the size that you want. We want everyone to have those t-shirts by October 1st, so you can wear it for the entire month of October and November, and you can wear them forever. Some of the logos are the words on one of the t-shirts. It says, "I am Black, my life matters." The other one says, for our non-Black population, it says, "They are Black, their life matters." And the third one says, "Social justice." Social, SOCIAL, just, JUST, us. So I need y'all to really go out and buy those t-shirts, and don't talk about the prices. When y'all go to Macy's, you don't complain about the prices there, so don't complain about the prices here. You're gonna be helping people. Macy's ain't helping people. Macy's is helping individuals. So we want you to go out there and help us so we can help everyone else. Again, I also want to share with you that in September, we have our social justice campaign that's kicking off, folks. Our social justice campaign. I'm very excited. So on next week, September 22nd, the topic will be From Africa to America, the Middle Passage. And I know many of y'all are saying, what is the Middle Passage? Come on next week. You're going to find out what was happening with the Middle Passage and how many Black people were lost along the ocean shores getting us to America. And it was not one of the ships going on cruises. On September 29th, the topic is a denial of culture and humaneness, an American tragedy. Our goal is to make sure that people understand why Black people are the way they are, and why they're upset, why they're angry, why they feel they've been misused and abused, and so forth. So we're not coming on to argue about racism. We're coming on to educate you about Black people. On October 6th, the topic, racism, Black humanity ignored. Black humanity ignored on October 6th. October 13th, the right of equality, or the right to equality. We should not have to be fighting for our rights when we fought for this country and built the White House and our major inventors in this land. So again, this is not about hating someone else. It's really about loving yourself. It's about loving yourself. And there's nothing wrong with loving yourself. If I have white viewers, if you don't love yourself, come to me as a therapist, and I'll help you start loving yourself. So everyone ought to love themselves. For all the announcements, I feel like I'm making church announcements. My goodness, I feel like the church secretary. But I do want to get all this information out to y'all, making you all aware of the wonderful things that we're doing here in Atlanta, Georgia. And folks, guess what? It's not here in Atlanta, just Atlanta. We have viewers from throughout the state of Georgia. We have viewers in Mississippi. We have viewers in Tallahassee. We have viewers in North Carolina. So we're throughout the world. And guess what? We even have some viewers from Sierra Leone. So I'm really happy that we're making this international impact. I do want to share with y'all that if they're streaming us in from Sierra Leone, the data costs a lot of dollars just to stream us in. So if they think it's important and they don't even live here, it's most important that you be a part of us. So please, folks, stop being so greedy. Stop coming on here just getting this for yourself. Share with your friends to log on to Instagram at Miles Children, and you'll be getting us every week. So without further ado, I sort of want to introduce a young lady who's been sitting there very patiently. And I'm going to have her introduce herself, but her name is Jacqueline Clemens, and she's out of Florida. But what I know about her is that she is an education advocate and a very strong advocate and for our children. So Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. Hey.
Thank you. Just honored to be here. Always a fabulous show, and I'm committing myself to not missing anymore. I literally wrote down all the upcoming titles so that I can be there. And you are doing exactly what we need to do. We need to have discussions. You know, there used to be such a thing as Black radio, Black talk radio. We don't have that. So this is it. And look forward to just participating as much as possible. So thanks for inviting me.
You'll be participating, so I'm going to assign you some of those topics we're going to be talking about. Because I think this is a very...
I'm ready for it.
I think the social justice issue is a very serious issue, and America's ready for it. America's ready for it. If it's not ready for it, they're going to have to get ready for it. Because I think at this point, there's no turning back. I mean,
and also, you know, your conversation on the right to equality, I think that is just, I'm not sure we realize it. We realize other people don't, but I'm not sure we realize ourselves. We have a right to equality. I mean, not only just a birthright, but an ancestral right.
Why are you trying to start my show on the 29th before I even get there?
Sorry.
We're not going there tonight. No, we're going to keep people. We're going to keep people in suspense. We're going to keep them in suspense.
Looking forward to it.
But tonight, Jackie, there is a very serious issue that's going across our country. Very, very serious. And you already know this as an educator and as an advocate. A very serious issue. And Jackie, I get calls every day from parents who are just, their family's in crises, because they're not sure whether they should go to work, because they have like a first grader at home. Do they leave the first grader at home by themselves? You know, it's just, we're in crises. And I want our audience to know, for those who don't have children, consider yourself blessed at this point. Because if you have children and trying to work, you have a 6-year-old at home and a 7-year-old, who's going to leave those kids at home by themselves? If you do leave them at home by themselves, it's a problem. So Jackie, are you ready to get started?
I am ready to get started.
All right, let me give the background first. More than 30,000 K-12 schools in the United States are being shuttered because of worries about spreading coronavirus, affecting at least 20 million students, of whom will be asked to shift to online learning. That's a lot of students, 20 million students, 30,000 K through 12 schools in this country are being impacted by this dilemma, And it's a dilemma that these families did not cause. It's a dilemma that they didn't walk into. It is a dilemma that they were cast into.
Yes.
And as we begin to talk about this, we're going to hear more about the educator's role and some things they're feeling. But I want you all to get the impact of this. At least 20 million students are impacted. But Jackie, I want to give you some things that that some of the clients are calling me talking about.
Okay.
They are saying they're having massive outages. They're saying the kids cannot get online. I mean, this is not only the state of Georgia, I'm throughout the country they're calling in. They cannot get online. They're also saying, I call you Jackie because I feel comfortable with you, but they also feel that the children are playing and saying they can't get online when they really can, and so they're absent.
Right. We can talk about some strategies to monitor that, but what you're saying is exactly what's happening. I am an educator. I'm a current educator, and I can tell you these things are happening every day. As a matter of fact, I have a session tomorrow with a group of parents to explain how they can monitor. So when everyone got hit with this pandemic, and of course it started to affect education, everybody's scrambling to figure out, what do we do? How do we do this? Right? The school districts are scrambling. Educators themselves, teachers, you know, and teachers are also parents. So I know people who are teaching a class online and monitoring their children online. And so we kind of have to look at the whole picture. One, how we got here. Two, what are some strategies for getting out of it? Because I can tell you in the district that I'm in, there's a battle going on right now between the union and the district on going back. Okay.
You know, that can be a real, a very not only dangerous, but a troublesome fight when it comes between unions and teachers and children's educations. But I'm looking at more so the parents. And you talked about how to monitor these children. But guess what, Jackie? Not every family has even computers, a high-speed internet in their home. Are you all running into those kind of issues?
We are running into those issues. In some cases, let's talk about the high-speed internet. Hotspots are being used. We have people who are, you know, securing them, be it philanthropically or otherwise, because there's really just no choice. There are also situations, and I know they happen to be in the Atlanta area, programs that are providing both monitoring and internet access for people whose families are still working. And so they're able to do that more in a 10-to-1 or social distance environment than many of the school districts, because of course the school district can't have a teacher with, you know. So there are things that are happening out there for parents, some options and some solutions. And then we have parents who are forming co-ops.
But before you go there, you know, it was kind of interesting that parents are in a dilemma, and the dilemma is, you know, and
Your
we
child's life or your
and
child's
yeah,
education.
and we make it sound so like they have so many options, but the parents I'm talking to, they ain't got no options. You know, you're talking about having a child in the house and the low income families, and they have one phone for children in school. How does that work?
You know, in some of those instances, I think reality is going to say that they don't work. And that, I know we have children sharing laptops, and we're not even going to bring up the phone issue. Most school districts that I've heard of are able to provide laptops, especially to those most in need.
Okay,
Um,
I want to interject here in some of our schools here in Atlanta, and that is not happening. That is not
wow.
happening. And not only is it not happening, but our children in the income areas are somehow reporting that they didn't get to school on time to get the newer laptops. They're getting the old ones. And the schools are giving to them just to say they're giving it to them, but they're not even working when they get home.
Wow.
So we have a real issue with the low income families, and not just low income families. I think that many children are having, not just children have difficulties with this online. I think it's a wave of the future. I didn't want it to
Well,
happen
and,
this
and
way.
that's another thing that our families have to look at, okay?
Mhm.
Because some of this is not going to go away afterwards, okay? And so we have to look at both what's happening in the education system and what's happening in our communities. And at the end of the day, Dr. Miles, we are going to be looking in some situations for alternative education systems. That's the
Mhm.
bottom line. Parents are torn between a child's life, their jobs, and the child's education. And so we have to start providing alternatives. For instance, some districts, and I've only really heard of one or two, are putting these classes on TV. Okay?
Describe that to me. Like, what does that mean?
It means that you can go to a certain channel. Some of these
Mhm.
districts have channels, and
Okay.
it'll tell you at what time this class is showing, and you turn on your TV and you watch that class.
Amazing. So it's so,
Versus,
so, so it's requiring the student to be really independent, right? And the students who are not independent and who are not motivated, they're not going to do well.
right. But again, the district should still be reaching out to those students, because let's say that the students who are doing well and who
Mhm.
have the resources, they're running on a standard track. So then those students that need that special attention, the districts, for instance, the ones that I'm familiar with, they still have social workers. Okay. They still have the special assistants. Now, whether or not they're getting to those students and whether or not those parents know that I can request additional service, I can request special services. And in some cases, the districts are literally finding solutions, whether it's an internet solution, whether it's providing physical learning
I want to share
resources.
with you, maybe that's in Florida. Y'all doing better than we're doing. That's not happening here. There is not no social workers going into the house. I'm not saying even the possibility of it, because there also the issue of COVID. I sit in on a lot of IEP meetings, and my concern is that the children who are, well, IEP is for children who have some disabilities in
Right,
learning.
right.
And the problem is that those children are being most affected because they're not getting the additional supports they need. But I want to slow it down because I know we are rushing, and it sounds it's really an intense topic. You know, I want to talk about some pros and cons. I want to talk about some good things that are happening that you're aware of that's happening nationally, and
Okay.
also some things that are not so good that may be happening nationally. And the audience, you all are not just here to listen now. I want y'all to ask questions. I want you all to ask questions and also share some things that you're experiencing. All right.
So some good things are happening nationally by force, is that
Mhm.
we are being forced to transition to a different way of learning. And Dr. Miles, I'm going to say this, okay, because a lot of times we're talking about our kids.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the fact that some of the systems before COVID were not really serving our kids.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's talk about the fact that they really were not getting the quality and level of education that they actually needed to be functional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to the extent that this is kind of shaking up the apple cart, we now have an opportunity to restructure it. But as you mentioned, parents, Dr. Miles, so much of this is about parent training and retraining and accountability. And then those wraparound resources, which aren't through the school districts. Our organizations, Dr. Miles, are still there. Organizations that have been around for over 100 years to serve and assist. So at some point, a parent is going to have, a parent who's really not receiving service. We don't have a laptop. We don't have anyone coming. And just as a point of clarification, some of the things we're doing here are more drop off than in-home visits. We're dropping off a lot of supplies like drop off. But at some point, as parents always do, right, we have to find solutions and we have to reach out. Don't just reach out to the district. Reach out to the community organizations that are out there who are also there to serve and assist. Sometimes you need someone else's voice before you can be heard. But at the end of the day, here's what it amounts to. And so you've got your bare minimum. At a bare minimum, guess what? We can get a book, right? A child can work through that, be exposed. Sometimes the parents are able to help. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the parent can find an older sibling or a neighbor or someone. At the end of the day, if a child is completely locked out, and we have to think about that, what if the schools were completely closed?
But okay, what about the parent? You know, it's not like we're talking about parents who are somewhat abreast of education, and I want to get from a philosophical belief on what parents should do to the reality of what they're doing. For instance, the reality is 5 children. The reality
What
is
can you do?
she works at IHOP or Burger King somewhere. The problem is children older than each other. She has a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and 7-year-old. And I'm saying, to talk, I want to discuss some of those frustrations that you've heard of, like the things that
I
parents are
see
going
them every
through.
day. I don't just hear them. I see them every day. I see them online. I see students who have other kids right in their immediate environment who are also online, who's got double instruction. They can't even hear what they're, when they do have access, they
Right.
can't hear what is being said because you got multiple students in the room trying to learn. I
Right.
have students who, a 4th grader who's trying to help their 1st grade sibling. So they're not sitting in front of a laptop trying to learn. They're over there trying to get the sibling logged in or help them with an assignment. There are a number of different things going on. And then, of course, what you mentioned is also very rampant, and that is students who tell their parents they're online because they know their parents have no computers, awareness whatsoever, and they're online playing games and they're not in class.
I have a comment for you. It says, we have one of our viewers says, getting strong enough internet in Franklin County, Georgia has been a problem for me. We live a good ways in the woods and I have 6 kids. So, and that is another issue with the rural counties.
Yes.
Continue.
Okay. Yes. So, and that's why I'm saying, as parents, as difficult as it's going to be, there are times when they're going to have to reach for alternatives. And let's say your school district has, for instance, most school districts have quote unquote homeschooling. Okay. It's not really something you pick. I mean, some people do, but let's say, as with the rest of this, it's something you're forced into. Even those are additional support services. You don't have internet. You have 6 kids at home. Perhaps register all of those 6 kids at homeschooling and let that homeschooling department now assist you, because then there's a different expectation and there's a different set of resources that are coming towards you.
Okay,
right?
I think you said something that's really awesome, which I didn't think of. So you're saying versus having the child in a traditional school, enroll him in a homeschooling program
with the district,
and then they can receive additional supports because those homeschooling programs are designed for this kind of stuff in the first place.
Exactly. And
Gotcha.
It's something a lot of people are not, taking advantage of or thinking of.
They're not aware of.
Trying to do the traditional.
They're not aware of it.
Not aware. Exactly. Not aware. So when you're in a situation just like the person just made a comment, 6 children. I mean, if you had 6 laptops, it would still be difficult to educate 6 children in one household with all of them trying to learn, at one time. So
she also has a low internet. So
especially, I mean, you know what? And let's talk about that. Systems are crashing because even the districts never anticipated this many people being on those systems at one time. I can tell you the systems here crashed multiple times. So that's going to happen. And so as a parent, you're saying, okay, what are my options? Are my kids sitting out for an entire year?
Mm.
You know, are they going to be allowed to go back? I mean, this sometimes gets down to bare minimums. So what I'm suggesting is that parents do their best to maintain the leveled academic expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
if it comes down to it, Dr. Miles, you can get a fourth grade level book from Walgreens, and it's going to cover general fourth grade stuff. Okay. A lot of times the districts have supplies that are from previous years that are not being used anyway. At this point, those who are in really dire situations to make a phone call to the district, and they need to say, here's where I am, and look at some alternative resources.
You know what's interesting? You know, this throws me back to uh, old school stuff. In other words, you know, separate but equal. We got old books, but what you're saying is maintain some quality of education with your children,
Yes.
even if it's an hour a day.
Yes.
You
Yes.
get involved. You get involved and be involved in your child's education. And then, you know, you and I talked about this over the years. Stop being so dependent upon systems to educate our children.
In
So
the
this
first
is
place.
this is an opportunity for parents to really engage. And I understand you're working 3 jobs, but guess what? You have to ask yourself the question. I know that food got to be bought, the lights got to stay on, and all of that. But somehow, parents, you're going to have to find at least an hour a day to be with those children for instruction.
And
An
Dr. Miles,
hour.
I can even do you one better with certain strategies. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Parents have always been able to use psychology on kids. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can come home and say, this is what I expect to have done, and spend 10 minutes looking over it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can have your child, for instance, when I get home this evening, you're going to recite your 3 times tables to me. Okay, times tables can be found anywhere. Children can continue to learn without technology, and they can recite, and that takes 5 minutes. And that's one of the things that I try to teach certain parents. Parents don't have an hour, really. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
an hour of capacity. So we
Mm-hmm.
talk about what can you do? What expectation can you set with that child to say, when I get home, your 5 minutes, I want to hear your threes. I want to hear your fours. And that
Okay.
child can spend that day learning that. I
Okay.
want to hear vowels. I want to hear this. Little bites.
I'm going to make our conversation really tough because, you know, I'm an early childhood person also.
I know.
That sounds good for those older children. But
No.
what about my little 5-year-olds and my 6-year-olds who,
Here's the brilliance of your 5 and your 6-year-olds.
all
Okay.
right.
They're excited about learning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're easy to bribe. They're easy to encourage. Listen, you learn this. I want you to look at this. Okay. Let's say they don't get it all. Let's say they learn part of it, but they're learning. They're engaged in the process. And so actually sometimes they're easier to work with. And so let's say you want your 5 or 6-year-old to learn the letter A today, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
just leave them with an A book, right? They're going to be able to do some of that. Don't forget, these same 5 and 6-year-old kids can often work cell phones
Now
from the age of 2 and 3.
we don't mean leave them at home by themselves with a book, but
No, no, no. But I
we
mean
mean
that learning process.
right, exactly.
Right. No. Don't
It's
leave them at home
about
with a
giving
book.
the child a book and the house be burned down when they get back home.
Right. We
So
don't want to do that. But I'm saying the learning process.
right.
You can
Mm-hmm.
tell that 5-year-old, that 6-year-old, okay? When I get home, I want you to show me what an A looks like.
Right.
Okay? When I get home, I want you to show me which color is yellow. So it's just about keeping it going in smaller bites. Those kids are excited. They want to be in school, which is another thing we encourage parents to do to whatever extent. I don't care if you take a sheet of paper and decorate it as a bulletin board with their name on it. Create something that simulates a school environment. It can be very small. It can be on their little spot on the wall. But you want to do that. These are things that don't take a lot of time.
We know one
Just
thing.
go.
Yeah, I had to interrupt you, but I'll interrupt because I don't know how to pin these messages. I have to read it. Tanya says you can get them 5 and 6-year-olds in the kitchen and let them cook and learn some there. I've been doing 3 of mine. And what she's saying is just engage your children and what you do every day.
Yes, and let's face it now, those are some of the really learning
Yes.
strategies. And those are really the best learning strategies because that's wraparound. You're not just learning it, but you know why you're learning it and you're applying it. And very often, again, in those traditional environments, you learn something, but you have no idea how to apply it. So yes, counting the towels after you wash them. all sorts of
And
things you
fold
can,
them. And
and
fold them.
fold them, of course. Yeah, while you're folding them. And so you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they're not just learning the number 5 at that point. They're learning the quantity of 5.
But
And
they're
those
also
things are very important.
but they're also pleasing the parent, and that also enhances the parent and child relationship.
And they're spending time with that
Yeah.
parent. They always want that. That's
And
never going to go away.
some parents are
So,
saying, "Go, I'm sorry."
yeah, so I'm saying, so what can be a challenge can also be a major opportunity for you and your child. And then let's say we go back to a traditional school, which we expect to do at some point, then you actually know your child's abilities,
But you know
right?
how I think also I think the parents, and and I don't have a 5 or 6 year old. You already know that, but I think the parents have to have a made up mind that I don't care hell or high water, my child will not be behind.
Right.
I'm
And I'd
going to do
also like
whatever
to
I have to
suggest,
do.
yeah, and I'd also like to suggest that with COVID or no COVID, that parents also have a mindset, regardless, that I am this child's first educator, because that's true. You're teaching your child something every single day. You taught your child speech, right? You taught your child motor skills. They learn to walk around you, not at a school.
So parents, all that nasty language they got, you taught them.
Right,
So watch what you
right.
say around them.
Always, please. Children are sponges. We hear this, but I don't think we often believe it. Sometimes we have mindsets that they don't learn until, no, they're always learning something.
I want to shift this conversation a little bit now, because we're talking about the children, and this is really great stuff. And I really hope our audience is really getting from this. But it just reminds me of, I'm not kidding, it takes me back to old days when children went to school for 2 hours and came home and they had to farm. They learned all the other skills. But none of those students are older. They're doctors and lawyers and attorneys and have a great life because they only work 2 hours in the field. Now, by no means am I saying go back to the fields, but I'm trying to make a point. My point is that it's the quality of time that you spend with the children. Not only that, but I've always said, I don't understand why children got to be in school for 6 hours a day. That's just my thought. but you have an opportunity now, the child's at home, and just make the best of it. I do want to shift
And
it.
Dr. Miles, I want
Yes.
to add to that comment. Let's be very careful about our dependencies with our children.
Yeah.
That's one of the things this is teaching us. We have become dependent on those schools as big kid daycares.
Mm-hmm.
And there are too many children in the schools, Dr. Miles, who are there to be babysat, not to learn. So this is causing a shift. And I believe that this is a shift that is good for our community because it places the education of these children back in our laps. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some challenges, and we have to figure out how to solve them, but we need to figure out how to solve them, whether
Yeah,
it is at home or school.
Yeah, I want to shift a little bit. I want to talk about how the teachers are doing. Some teachers are being forced to go back, and with this digital divide, I mentioned the word digital divide. We've had internet problems even when school we're in. There were communities still not getting internet service. So this ain't blamed on Corona.
I tell you.
But how are teachers doing? Like, what are teachers saying about being forced to go back some areas?
Going back for a lot of teachers is a big debate because we have families at home who may fall into high-risk categories. And as far as I know, there are a few districts, of course, who have approached it, and to my understanding, approached it well in terms of putting things in place to protect teachers. They've made classroom sizes smaller. They're putting up certain partitions. But there are some districts who have yet to brace that conversation. What are you doing for educators to make sure that this is even safe? And I will share with you, it's a big fear that it's going to be what we have seen when children have gone back and teachers have gone back, that you end up with an outbreak and you're shutting down again.
Well, that's what's happening here in several of our districts. The schools have gone back, and
within weeks.
It's been outbreaks. And what bothers me, and I sit in these meetings, what bothers me is that some schools, it appears to be unconstitutional. Well, they tell the parent, now this is a special needs child, if your child comes to the school, he can get everything he needs. If he doesn't, we have to give him what we can give him. But then the question is, well, since the child's not coming back to school, you have extra teachers, why can't those paraprofessionals or teachers go to the child's house? They said because of coronavirus.
Right. Providing a service, for instance, we have special services being provided online. Our children are being pulled out for IEP, and well, not for IEP, but they're being pulled out for the additional support that they need online. Because keep in mind, a lot of that support was, again, just instructional, right?
Well,
Now, if there
but
are some physical needs.
no, I'm talking about where the child only gets an hour or 30 minutes of instruction per day.
Okay, an hour.
If the 30 minutes
I'm
are
not.
an hour of instructions per day, and the child is on an IEP, the child has a disability. And we know that this whole technology thing is really affecting those children who have special needs. But
I think that, again, those parents need to be. I am told is that all special needs are still in play,
okay,
and
I'm gonna tell the
districts are
audience this.
scrambled.
I'm gonna tell the audience this, Jackie, and I want you all to hear this right here. You know, I actually teach this at a local college. I was teaching this, and it's called Public Law 94-142, or it's called IDEA. And it still says that children should receive the best education in the least restrictive environment, especially those children who have special disabilities.
Special needs.
And all you have to do is mention that to the school, and they're going to jump in place. I'll share with you, I did this, I sat in 2 IEP meetings, so forth, with children, and these have been Black children, and interestingly, it's been Black males who have an IEP, and the school district told the parent originally that they could only get an hour, 30 minutes to an hour per day. And that
I didn't. Yeah, our children are literally online for 6 hours a day.
No,
They have their regular schedule.
I'm telling
So
you.
when you're telling a special needs child an hour and a half a day, at that,
Well, maybe
I can't speak to that.
well, this is in Georgia. This is where I am. I'm telling you, I sit in these meetings. Until I get into those meetings, they still don't increase the time, but for about 30 minutes. So what they'll do, the teacher will give an hour 3 days a week, and the paraprofessional would do the half hour the rest of the week. So that's all the kids are getting, and they get these packets that the child with the and so my kids are saying, my kids are the ones I'm treating. They're saying, guess what? This stuff is baby stuff. And so I have to go to school. So the parents talking about, listen, let's challenge our students. So I want to hear.
To say,
but
it
I really,
sounds like they're going to need some advocates with those districts, because obviously that's just wrong.
Well, I said I want to go to where the teachers are saying that some of the data says that teachers are saying they have a problem going back, because even going back, they don't even have the PPEs. They don't have the personal protection equipment. They said the most they have is a bottle of cleaner and a mask.
Right. Can you imagine the way some of these kids move around, the way they blow their noses and do different things? That's what we're hearing. I can tell you that, again, there are a lot of teachers unions and districts still trying to battle this thing out, still trying to determine. I know that there's a personal battle going on here in my district, where the district is telling the teachers to do one thing and the union is saying don't.
What district are you in? Do you mind sharing that?
I'm in Broward County.
That's in Florida. So yeah, in Georgia, there are many. We have a lot of school districts. Like every county has a school district,
you do.
And like 23 of them, 32 of them, and they're all doing different things. But some of those kids are actually going back to school face to face. And the parent dilemma is they're saying, "Oh my God, I gotta go to work. I hate to do this right here," but it's like you're signing a death certificate. And so one of the schools in one of our northern counties did not even have masks. The kids just came back, and of course, they had an immediate breakout.
Of course. And then parents are going to have to apply as much of their own choice, and I don't want to say common sense, but just their own choice. Don't send your child back without a mask. These are things that we don't necessarily need other people to tell us. The parents can get together and say that. And let's not forget about the SAC teams and the fact that most districts and most schools have a requirement to engage the community. That school advisory committee, literally a requirement as part of the state requirements. And so parents, we're in a place where parents are going to have to get out there and be involved in the decision making, instead of just expecting that somebody else is going to get out there and get it right.
Well, there are some teachers who lack expertise in this online stuff. So some of the kids are reporting that the teachers are even saying, this stuff would drive me crazy.
So, there are a lot of teachers. Dade County did this training, 2 weeks of training with their teachers on the virtual, the K-12 system. I think the state was already using. And 2 weeks later, they dropped it.
Wow.
They were having that many problems. They said, we're just not using it anymore. And they did this overnight. So when a lot of kids got up and parents and students got up the morning afterwards, they didn't even know that the system had been discontinued. It
Well,
was
think
that
about
bad.
think about it. We're going to find that it's those who suffer the most are going to be the ones who've always suffered the most. And it's the low income families. It's the families that are marginal. It's the families that, they're young parents. They're families who, and people I'm not talking about, I'm just telling you the truth.
And let's hope, though, that out of that comes some advocacy from them. I don't think parents realize how much power they have, especially collectively. Those dollars are coming for their students. So any school district that is still getting dollars for a student owes that student services. But yes, you have to be that squeaky wheel. You have to know what you sometimes don't know. You have to speak with other educators. I don't know to what degree the unions are responsible to parents, but they can certainly provide information about what the educators can and cannot do. But the system has gotten everyone in turmoil. Educators, I'm telling you, you're teaching literally. You're literally on a camera from 7 a.m. from 7:50 a.m. until 2:30. You then go into meetings from 2:30 to 3:30, and yet somehow they're expecting planning, training on new systems, documenting this, documenting that. It's a problem.
So not only is the families are in crisis, but also the schools are in crisis.
The schools are in crisis. The teachers are very much in crisis, and a lot of teachers are leaving the profession. They're just not coming back. They're looking for other things to do. I've heard that more times than I can, recount. That I'm just not going back. I can't do this. The stress of it.
Because they're having to make a decision between life and death of their families.
They're making life and death decisions, or even when they decide to teach, the demands are insane. Yeah. The demands are just unrealistic.
Well, you know what? At one college here, I was working at, and they started back, and I didn't start back with them. I just decided that I'm too old. I'm 63 years old. I just wasn't going back to risk it. And unfortunately, I can make the decision, but there are some people who that's their bread and butter.
Yes, all of us are being forced. I'm facing a similar decision. If the district goes back, they've said they're going back on October the 5th.
Face to face?
Face to face. Now, again, they're in a battle with the district who says there's a MOU in place until July of 2021. And so they're battling it out. I think people here have been told either come back or take a leave of absence, which of course is unpaid.
That's Ms. Greenhouse.
It's almost as if teachers are not human beings.
Well, so as children and families. But Ms. Greenhouse made a point in here. She says, I have an 8-year-old with an IEP learning disability, and I spend about 4 to 5 hours with her. Are you a teacher, Ms. Greenhouse, or are you the parent you're talking about? So tell me, are you the parent or the teacher? Keep talking while she responds, Ms.
Okay. Right. So on either side of that equation, what she's saying is that she's having to substitute a lot. What I hope we are going to adjust to, because either way, it's not going away anytime soon.
It's not going away.
It's how we do a little bit. I don't really think we're helping by trying to duplicate the face-to-face system and giving students 6, 7, 8 hours of education.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. We're wearing out educators, children, and their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe we need to adjust the system. For instance, districts can consider going to a 4-day instructional week. Go to a 3-day virtual instructional week. That gives you time to instruct, and it gives other people time, gives your educators time to plan and be prepared. It gives parents a day off from insisting that the children be online. It's just going to have to look at the entire picture. It is not easy to get your child to be online where they're supposed to be.
But what's amazing, though, when you start looking at the development of children, the child development piece of it from a developmental model, they just can't be online looking into a camera that long.
And
nobody
can think that it's going to be productive learning. It's not.
Exactly.
It's not. So the districts are trying to duplicate what they had face to face. They need to throw that out, and they need to say, how do we get them instruction? Because honestly, a quality nugget is better than 1 quality nugget is better than 8 just nuggets.
Where it's about how they get their money. They can't draw the money down. They're doing only 2 hours. They got to do at least 4 hours.
Well, guess what? You can look at other ways, but 2 hours face to face doesn't mean only 2 hours, because you can still give that student support. right?
Right.
They can still be, submitting things online on those days off that you can be checking virtually. But clearly, we all need to adjust.
Hey, folks, my name is Dr. Willie Mouse. I'm the president of Dr. Willie Mouse Children Foundation, located in Atlanta, Georgia. We're glad you're following us. Ms. Clemens, tell them who you are and what you do in your part of the world.
Okay, so I am, and I've done every level from K to college, also with Broward College, which is now, it used to be Broward Communities, now Broward College. I've also done the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. Also done the CDF Freedom Schools. So I've worked with many different educational models, trained many different teachers at different levels. And mostly what I care most about is actually working with parents and giving them strategies. So even as a classroom educator, my connections with parents has always been direct. There is no such thing as educating a child in that absence.
Have you heard of community pods that are developing?
Yes, that's what I spoke about a little bit earlier.
Talk about it. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So what parents are doing is getting together and forming their own little educational circles. And I really think that's going to be one of our more successful strategies for COVID. Let's not forget that very often students can help other students.
Yeah.
Okay, making sure that you have those kind of functional circles. But so people are forming their pods, be they neighborhood or social. It's designed to help give some parents relief. You could have a pod as small as 5, which means every one day out of the week, a parent is responsible for a group of students. Or you could have 10, and that means you're only on once every 2 weeks. So it depends on the functionality of the parents. You are trying to keep the group small, so probably no more than 10 kids, even if 3 of those are in one family. But what you're doing is rotating.
But the pods are really designed, it's for anybody, but the pods are designed really for families who have to work, don't have any other alternative but to put their child in one of these community pods. Of course, make sure the person's fingerprinted and make sure they ain't no pedophile, that kind of
stuff. Well, let's talk about the fact that the community pods should really be people that you already know.
No, people that you're, well, can I share with you? Don't forget, in the world we live in, those are the people who commit the crime. So I'm just simply saying, make sure that
absolutely
make sure you don't know anyone. Make those fingerprints. And I think also we can't assume that everything is free. You may have to give those people some money, a little bit of money, to help you out watching your children while you work.
Exactly.
While you work.
Right.
And as you said, I'm sorry, go on.
And it's not unlike aftercare. Many parents provided aftercare, summer care. I do know that there's a program that operates there and here, Dr. Miles, called ALM Sports. And they are just that. They are providing what they call virtual support for parents who have to go to work. So your child would be with them, and they have the internet service, and they're monitoring your child while they're online. And if you had to have a meeting while you're at work, they also fill in that place so that you can get that information.
That'd be great also if the parents were able to have cameras themselves where they can see what the child is doing in that pod. But I think it's a great idea. It's a great idea. It brings together what we have lost, and that is a sense of community.
A sense of community. And again, don't forget mentioning that to reach out. There are many organizations that I know of that are providing some levels of support. And again, it could be laptops that the school district, it could be hotspots that the school
Can you give us some idea of organizations that you know of that may be doing something similar to that?
Okay, some of the national organizations, for instance, are the Links Incorporated.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Fraternities and sororities, I know, are the historically Black fraternities and sororities are also reaching out. They have these mentor groups, and they're taking their mentor groups and still working with them. So let's not forget that our children still need these, support services and role models. And again, many times those organizations, if they aren't offering it themselves, they're offering support. Okay.
My heart, it bleeds for these parents of today. They have so many challenges, many challenges, and they did not see it coming. None of us saw it coming. I mean, you're talking about having 4 or 5 children. You're talking about you were catching hell before COVID.
Right. Because you know what? It used to be that these children, social media, for instance, is one of those ills that was already wreaking havoc. So now the child has more time to be on probably, somewhat or sometimes inappropriate social media outlets or these games that are addictive. So
You know,
yes,
it's amazing you say that, because we had a report here in Georgia that while on virtual, the porn tapped into it.
absolutely.
And
And they
so,
know how, if a child misspells a word, those things are very dangerous. A lot of the school districts' computers are designed to block it,
mhm.
but you can't necessarily catch everything. So parents can try it themselves. Go in and mistype a word and see what sort of access your child can be exposed to.
But the thing
Um,
about it, some of our children ain't misspelling no words. They're actually typing into it themselves.
let's
But
face it, once a child gets exposed, those things are very difficult and they're very dangerous to monitor. We've also had children in the early days of this being home who were meeting predators online,
yeah,
obviously, and then doing the typical thing. So this has increased opportunities for some things, but as you mentioned, it's also increased opportunities for parents to engage with their children. Um,
it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Well, they can't seem to get online for school,
but
but they
they
can
can
show
get
up and get online for
online for
them
predators.
games,
Yes, and the
for those
game.
games.
And
So the
that's one of the strategies I use with
yeah,
children anytime they try that. I don't know. I said, really? Because somehow you know how to use that cell phone and you never read a manual. Somehow you know how to play these games overnight and you're a pro, you're a top scorer. So your brain works. We tell them all the time, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your brain. It's
yeah,
just a question of application. And parents need to kind of learn those things too. Parents are sometimes a little susceptible to anything the child says. Oh, I couldn't get on. Oh, it went off. You know what? I don't care if you bluff and say I don't believe you. Make them prove it.
yeah.
Okay?
That's true, because what we're having here, I'm sure it's happening across the country, where the students are saying they're not able to get on, and what they do, they turn the camera off so the teacher
Yes.
can't see them. They tell parents, look at here, so I can't get on, and because
Yeah.
the parents don't have any technology experience, they're saying
They
the
don't know
child
where
can't
the
get
child
on.
is supposed to be. A lot
Right.
of parents don't know the difference between an online game and an online class.
Yeah.
And so what I've told my parents, if you don't see my face, they're not in class. So there's some simple things that you need to do. If your child is in a live class, you should see their teacher
Well,
on that computer.
I got reports here that, and I'm not sure this is widespread, but I got some reports here that the teachers also don't show their face; they just talk. And I said, I don't believe that. They said, yeah. So
That's not allowed in our district. And it's not
yeah,
that you won't turn it off occasionally. You get up,
right,
you do this.
of
But in
course.
terms of teaching overall, the camera must be on.
Gotcha, gotcha,
Camera
gotcha.
has to be on. But even
Uh,
if your camera's not on, you'll still see the teacher's name. You'll hear a teacher. You
right.
have to realize that first of all, if that child is doing too much smiling, because that's how I catch my kids doing double
They're not
duty.
educated.
They're like this. Right. If they that happy, they're playing a game. Okay. So you just have to use,
So they're
some
playing a
common
game
sense.
and virtual education at the same time.
Right. They
Hey,
do.
listen, folks. We want you all to actually ask some questions of us while we're still here. I chose to have this as a topic because I've been getting so many complaints from parents and from students alike that they're having all kinds of problems. And just realize you are in the midst of about 20 million students who are
And
having
I'd
this kind of
also
issue.
like to know if your audience has suggestions. I really do believe that we're going to have to come out of the
Work
box,
together. Yeah.
work together. So if there are any suggestions or things that you think would help parents and students, let's put it out there.
That's a great idea. Not only just the problems, but some solutions. So, do
Yeah.
you all have any ideas? Does anybody know of any? I'd like to ask this question: are there any other teachers that are following us out there? Any teachers or school administrators who'd like to make some comments with us?
And let's not forget, if we happen to have some students listening, I'd like to hear
Yeah,
from them as well.
sure.
Okay.
Well, let's keep talking. I mean, this is a great topic, and you gave me some great ideas. The biggest thing I've gotten from it is that the parents can enroll their children in home schools, which changes the game plan.
Exactly. And at a minimum, parents, again, go find those books, okay? The little educational workbooks. They are just as effective if your child is at home doing nothing. What you want to avoid is the child sitting doing nothing, okay? Worst case scenario, get a box of crayons, tell that 5, 6-year-old that I want to see A through Z when I get home. And that'll help you know which ones they're missing when you get home. Any form of daily engagement and learning is going to be
Routine.
better, yes, than nothing. And it does not need to be 6 hours. And you do not need to sit there and try to duplicate the school system. Learn.
You
This
know,
week we're doing letters. Next week we're going to do numbers 1 through 5. Make it small. Spend 5-10 minutes, and that child is still engaging.
It's kind of amazing you say that about doing the schedule, because that's really important. Let's not change the child's regimen. For instance, why is he doing virtual school in bed?
Hello.
Get himself out of that bed, put his uniform on as he was going to school, have a little work area ready for him, and he's to go pretend he's at school. He has a schedule. Guess what? I get a timer for the
We
bell.
tell them, exactly, and make sure they're up. And here's another thing that happens, Dr. Miles. We are afraid to set high expectations for our scholars. You understand me? We are so accommodating on the, oh, baby, that's okay. He didn't understand. No, we'll go figure it out. Let's push our children to excellence, right? Let's make it. I want you in school. I want you learning. I'm going to give you 5th grade if you're in 4th grade. They don't really know the difference, but we're afraid to push them.
Let's have the parents, let's develop some universal language here. Like, for instance, the parents need to tell themselves that I'm the child's best teacher anyway.
Period.
Yeah,
Always.
I'm the best teacher. You're talking about
I'm the best teacher. I'm the first teacher.
I'm the first teacher, and you're gonna do what I say do. And I'm not depending on no school system to educate you, because we work too hard to. I'll start fussing. Too hard to get here. No, I'm the teacher.
And let your child know just what you're saying, Dr. Miles. School is supplementing what I'm doing here.
Right.
I'm your educator. I'm the one that sent you there. Okay, it's language.
But you know, I think also
very often that's missing.
You know, it's the affirmation also. You're not dropping out of school, and you ain't making no Fs. You know, I have a PhD, so I don't mean ain't. You are not going to make any Fs. You know, so set those expectations. Set the expectations high. That I don't want to.
And let's talk about the fact that there is more than one way to learn. If your child thinks the only way they can learn is at that school, then that needs to be corrected. Yes. Because we learned long before we got to school. And I've often said, you can take a stick and some dirt and do the letters. Hello.
Well,
I'm from Mississippi, so we grew up playing with sticks.
Don't have me go biblical on that stick and that dirt now.
Okay. But my point is, parents do need to be resilient, as is yours. Let's be resilient. Let's stop being so dependent that, oh my God, the school's closed. What are we going to do? We're going to figure it out. We're going to find ways to teach our children the basics.
But you know what's kind of interesting? You know what's kind of interesting? It's almost like we got to go back when the school didn't want us there in the first place.
Well, listen, I did a presentation for one of those groups that I mentioned. And so I said that when we sit back and say all of this is unprecedented, one of the examples I used, I said, a time when our children couldn't go to school. Unprecedented? Who? For us?
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
A time when the police were not supportive and telling us. Unprecedented for us? Come on. So you're absolutely right, Dr. Miles. These things have happened in our communities before. What I hope comes out of this is that we take control of the education of our students.
I have a thought. And then we have to move on. I have a thought. The parents should create their own private school. Our house is our private school. Miss Greenhouse says she has 4 elementary kids. She says they get up every morning putting on their private school uniforms.
Hello. Yes, they do.
I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Let's not forget, ultimately, especially with consistency, your children are going to follow you. And when you set that tone and you are consistent about it, they will start to think that I got a private school at home. I got to get up. I got to get dressed. Look for those rewards if you need them. But it's expectations.
You know, I would do those seriously. Miss Greenhouse gave me a great idea.
Give it a name.
I would actually get my own shirts made up.
Yes.
This is Miles Private School.
Yes.
You ain't going to no regular school, but you get up out that bed, put on that uniform shirt, and it's Miles Private School.
Get to your designated spot, and if the teacher doesn't have work for you, I do.
Right, every day now. And call the shirt what you want to call it, and that makes it so personal. That you're not a G.N. Smith,
and it puts them in the mindset. Absolutely.
And they know you're not playing with them.
And they know you're not playing.
And I'm the principal.
That part is important. And
I'm the
way,
principal.
even when they go back to school, they have a certain mindset about education. And Dr. Miles, as an educator, I can tell you that our children, many of the children I see, do not have a mindset that education is a priority and that it's important. And so doing what you just said, having that school at home, amazing.
Check. I got somebody on here. I can't pronounce the name, but it's BCK Baca, I think. But they said we did the same thing in our household. End of the year, last year, as parents of 7, we thrive on structure.
Thrive on structure. Now, there you
we
have
congratulate
it. And
you.
again, you've got parents helping parents and finding solutions. You are the parent. You are the teacher. You control what happens with that child. You are their first a person to make an impression on them. So when you set a tone, that child will follow.
Okay, guess what? We're about to wrap up. Time has gone so fast.
Always.
And I have a clock here that tells me when my time is running out. So do you want
Okay.
to have any last words?
Just for parents to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
realize that whether it's quickly or slower, at whatever pace, it will happen and you can move your child forward. You have more skills than you think, but connect, reach out to others and find out what's in your community.
And you can get through anything because you are amazing. You
And
can
really,
get through anything because you're amazing. I want to just bring some final announcements up because I can't let it go. We have T-shirts for sale, and go to our website. Please stop liking the T-shirts. We need you to buy them.
Dr. Miles, give us the website again. I'm going right now.
It is what is our website? Oh, it's
Miles.
the childrensfoundation.net.
Oh, okay. The Children's Foundation.
Foundation.net. That's our website. And if you received an announcement from us today, it was actually in the email blast, and it's in all of the announcements, but it's the childrensfoundation.net. And you'll see T-shirt sales. So go and get them. They're a little bit.
And next week, maybe you can show us one.
Oh, exactly. We actually email them out to everyone. So email, if you didn't get an email today, let me know. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, and it's on Twitter. The shirts are there. All right. So I have a few more minutes. I want to wrap up. Don't forget, folks, we thrive and survive on donations. If you have a penny, send it to us. You have $1, send it to us. Every little bit helps us. Also, our social justice campaign starts next week on next Tuesday night. I have to give you the titles again. You ready? Now, we're going to send announcements out this week. I'm just trying to tease y'all. Somebody says, back to special education. We have 2 children in special ed pre-K prep. Do they have the same learning? Yes, rights as others. Special education students in elementary and up. Does this make sense? They have the same education rights. And we talked about this before. I can't really get into it now because my time is wearing on, but the law is called Public Law 94-142 that says all children with special needs have certain rights and they can even get equipment. My children who I went to the IEP meetings are even getting the computers, and they were not getting them before. So please go there. Social Justice Campaign, September 22nd, From Africa to America, The Middle Passage. September 29th, A Denial of Culture and Humaneness, an American Tragedy. October the 6th, Racism, Black Humanity Ignored. October 13th, The Right to or of Equality. We need y'all to tell everybody about this right here. We will actually send this out in email blast. We'll put it on social media. Make sure you tell everyone. Folks, we should not have to beg you all to do this right here. We should have 100,000 people on us every week. Ms. Clemens, I want to thank you so much for being with us. You were absolutely a wonderful guest, quite informative. And I may do this again real soon because it's really important. My time is wearing on. Thank you all for being our followers. We love you. And don't forget about us. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll look for ways to donate.